It is time. It is time. It is Wire to Wire Sports Podcast, episode 198. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. And to my upper left, I got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, collegiate Cottrell.
Gentlemen, it's as these summer months start to wind down here, we are getting closer and closer to the college football season. So,
bro, I am fired up. I'm fired up about college football this year. I'm wired. It started with me not liking it, and I want to talk about it, to now I'm fired up about it.
You're here now.
I really am fired up about college football. Like, next week, we get into our conference breakdowns, so I can't really talk about that. But that's all right.
We've made him a fan.
In the upper right corner, Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally. Got to start calling him Doc. The guy just keeps throwing gems out there on the mound. Mr. William Shawcross.
I will share College Cottrell's sentiment as well. We are, listen, in general, we're under a month to right about a month for college football, and that means NFL's right around the corner as well. So we're countdown mode to pigskin time.
You know what's funny? Like, there's parts of times where, like, during the NFL season, we're like, on a couple more weeks, we'll be able to talk about a little bit more sports than football because we get so into football, right? And now, like, when it's a month and a half away, we're like, where's football? Waiting for football. Missing some football. I'm fired up. By the way, I'm not, like, trying to be this guy, and we'll get to football later. We have an NFL segment for linebackers. But, like, I don't understand. Like, I just really don't. How bad an organization can look. Did you know that Mike Rowe? I know you know this, Shally. Mike Rowe is the wide receivers coach for the New York Giants.
I don't know how to, like, really how much of a colossal failure it was for them to do that show. I don't know if they were forced to do it. I don't know. I know there was certain teams that couldn't refuse it and so forth and so on, but they could have had the best free agency period ever, and I still don't think that it would have came out looking good, and they didn't have a good free agency. They drafted a kid who didn't want to play there, and now this show, I don't know if anybody looks worse going into the season than the New York Giants. Like, if you're a Giants fan, like, you really I think you have to question a lot of things right now if you're a Giants fan.
They may have ruined it for everybody. We may not ever get another season of off-season hard knocks. Like, it's that bad. I don't know if teams are going to agree to do it.
Well, my question that I would ask would be this, and I mean this when I say this, is did you guys see the interview with – did you guys watch the interview with Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Yeah, I've seen the latest one. Yep.
Dude, What are we doing? Every week it's something new. And Mike Rowe's like, yeah, Malik Neighbors is much better. Like, are you – Mike Rowe is like the last – it's like asking, like, me, like, how the salads taste at the salad bar. Like, you talk about a guy that took over the Philadelphia Eagles that won the Super Bowl as their offensive coordinator, went to a press conference after the Eagles kicked a field goal in overtime versus the Titans and said, well, we did our job. We put points on the board after they lost in overtime to the Titans. And then that guy took a wide receivers coach for the Indianapolis Colts. Yeah, they're known for elite wide receivers, right? Now, the last 2 years, he's been the wide receivers coach for the New York Giants. And that's the guy's opinion we're going to take, that Malik Neighbors is a better wide receiver than Marvin Harrison Jr.? And the question they asked him in the interview, what are you going to do if we draft you? Is your family going to move out here, or are you relocating? What's up with your entourage? I'm sorry. I know I'm getting, like, off track from what we're supposed to talk about tonight, but, like, that I just, it's so wild to me.
Yeah, definitely wild.
I'm kind of out of words for it at this point. I would, like, if I was a Giants fan, I would really be looking at the season and be like, I don't want to hear, like, people are looking good in camp, and I don't want to hear, like, the optimistic, like, pump me up as a fan thing. I know damn well, after watching what goes on behind the scenes of that team, that we're gonna suck. We're gonna suck. We're probably gonna suck, like, epically bad. And I don't have any faith in anybody who's the decision maker in that organization to make it better.
Completely agree with you. And we're gonna get back on track today. We're gonna talk about MLB trade deadline, a little Olympic discussion. I am listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, be very, very clear. You got to be kidding me this week. Might shock some people at home. I'm telling you right now, I'm fed up with it. I'm done. I'm done with the stupid comments.
I already know what it is then.
We're gonna do our sports trivia. We got our linebackers list, UFC, and the headlines. We got a lot to get into tonight, so we might as well get rolling. We're already 7 minutes in. Let's talk about Major League Baseball's trade deadline. And what I'm asking Shally, right? I need Shally to talk me off the friggin' ledge. The Philadelphia Phillies have now lost 3 straight series to 3 subpar baseball teams. The Oakland A's before the All-Star break, okay. Heading the All-Star break, they swept the Dodgers, okay. The Pittsburgh Pirates and the Minnesota Twins lost 6 of 9 games to that slop. Talk me off the ledge, somebody.
I mean, I would say there's still 27 games over 500. They still have the best record in baseball. Everybody needs to relax. I mean, the Twins are a potential playoff team. The Pirates are a playoff team as of right now, as we sit here. Listen, it's going to happen. I told you before, statistically, it eventually balances out. Like, this team wasn't going to finish 120-40. Like, that wasn't going to happen. Nobody's going to win 75% of their baseball games. But I mean, listen, they haven't looked, I won't say the same point. They haven't looked great, the last 2 weeks. They haven't looked sharp. But I mean, you have a game last night where Wheeler pitched great. You have to win that game. And Nola pitched really well today. You got to find a way to win that game. I find it weird that he let both of them stay in. He pulled Ranger after like 78 pitches or something. Didn't agree with that. I think some in-game kind of strategy stuff I haven't agreed with the last, definitely in this series, a little bit last series as well. Listen, I think they just have to, they're in a little bit of a kind of like a lull, and I think they'll bounce out of it, and I think everything's fine. They still have a 9.5 game lead in the East. Everybody around them it's not like anybody's making this series charge. Dodgers rotation. I know they're trying to make it sound like they're excited, but I mean, that rotation's in shambles right now. And nobody in the Central is, I think a major threat. I think they're fine. I just think we were used to this team just steamrolling people for 2 months, which was what they did. And now they've lost a couple close 1-run games, and now people are, I literally went on right when the game was over today, and the first 4 people I saw, it was all Phillies fans on the ledge, and the season's over, and here comes the 20-game losing streak, and blah blah blah. And there's no need for it.
I'm not saying the 20-game losing streak.
I'm not saying you. I'm just saying in general. It's like you said, we've lost 6 of 9, and the sky is falling. Meanwhile, you have the Yankees in the East who've lost 20 of the last 25, and their fans are still more upbeat and unrealistic than ours.
All right, so I'm going to try something a little bit different this week. We're talking about the trade deadline, and I kind of want to ask you guys a question. I'm going to give you players. Last time we talked about teams and what they would do, and that was long, drawn over. I want to talk about players. I want to talk about who gets moved at this trade deadline. I'm going to read you. I have a list of players. I'm going to read you all players. I want you to tell me if you think he gets moved this trade deadline, and where do you think he gets moved. Is that fair? Can we do that?
Fair. It's fine.
All right. So the first one I'm going to start with is a guy that I didn't think would be available this trade deadline, but now he's super available, and a lot of teams are talking about him. And it's Randy Arozarena.
Yes, I do. I think he's traded. I think he ends up in Atlanta, actually.
I was just about to say Atlanta will be a team that makes a lot of sense. I don't think Tampa Bay sells as much as it seems like they're trying to lead on.
I don't think it's going to be a fire sale in Tampa Bay, but I think with his contract status and what they have coming up, it just makes too much sense. And again, I've talked about this on previous episodes. This is a move that would make sense for Atlanta. They're not going to have to mortgage anybody, mortgage any of the farm to get them. Not necessarily going to be a splash move, but a move that I think probably makes them a little bit better with the injuries they have going on. And then, I mean, again, the other night they lost, Albies for 6 to 8 weeks now on a freak kind of play. So it's just not Atlanta's year.
Does Randy have 2 more years before arbitration or just one?
I believe it's this year and one more. But I think again, I mean, we know Tampa Bay's history, especially if he has another good year next year. I mean, they're just financially, they're not going to pay him. So might as well get something you can for him now.
Wayne over here predicting Randy to his Rangers. Teams up with his buddy Adalis.
That's not out of the realm either. I think if Texas decides they're really going to buy, which I think they're kind of on the fence. Again, I don't think Randy's going to be super expensive. So I think it is. I still think he ends up in Atlanta, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Texas is probably the next best option for him.
Okay. I'm not disagreeing with any of you guys. I think he gets moved also. What about his teammate, Mr. Zach Eflin?
I can see Zach going to the team we just got done playing. I think Minnesota is starting to kind of figure it out and make a little bit of a push here to try to get back at Cleveland. I think they have Lopez at the top of that rotation. Other than that, I think it's very, I don't want to say it's patchwork, but I mean, it's one night they're getting a really good start from somebody and the next night they're not. I think if they could find somebody to slot in like a 2 or 3 hole that's a little bit more consistent. And honestly, Eflin's pitched really well since he's left Philly. Always an injury concern with him, but again, a guy that's not making a ton of money. I don't think costs you an arm and a leg to get him. And he probably wins you a couple games down the stretch and, helps you get you back in the wild card run.
I like the division you went to. I just don't like the team. I think Cleveland makes a run at him. Cleveland's a team right now that is struggling to, you talk about slotting a guy in at 2, maybe 3. Cleveland's struggling to find out, who their legit ace is going to be. And I'm not saying Zach's, going to just come in and be an ace for anybody, but I think if you can get a guy that can consistently pitch well on a team that is right in the thick of it, that needs starting pitch before playoff time, I think that price could be right for a guy like that. And I think Cleveland would inquire about that.
I mean, I guess we'll find out. I think that Eflin gets moved. I think he or one of the Garrett Crochet gets moved to the Houston Astros, but we'll talk about Garrett Crochet in a minute. What about Vlad Guerrero Jr.? Is he moved by this trade deadline?
I think he is safe.
I agree. I think if there's one person they're going to hold on to, it's going to be him.
Okay.
I think the one team that could make this very, very interesting, though, would be Baltimore. I think they have the farm system. If they want to sell out and just essentially go all in this year, they have the pieces to do so. I do think Toronto would be hesitant about trading him in the same division, but I think Baltimore just has all the pieces to really go all in on this season and just basically, turn the baseball world upside down, make a move to go get Vladdy Jr.
I don't think that's the direction they go. I do think Baltimore is going to make a splash. I just think it's going to be for a pitcher. And they have Mountcastle there who they love, and he's a young kid. I just don't know if they move him. I don't know if you would trade the world to get a guy that's probably going to be your DH. That would be a little bit weird to me. But who knows?
Godfrey said Eflin is perfect for teams like Cleveland looking to make a quick first-round exit.
I would say the dark horse team for Eflin, I think, honestly, is in that division as well. I think it's Kansas City. I think Kansas City's going to do something here one way or the other.
They will now, Eric. They will now. They have new ownership, bro. They have no problem spending money now.
Listen, telling everybody, been saying it for a year since we started really into baseball last year with this group coming up. Baltimore is not going anywhere. That team is going to be good for a very long time. They have all that talent. They have a great farm system. And Gene's biggest point is that guy bought the team to make that team good. He is not afraid to spend money. He will get people's asses in those seats in that stadium. He will get his money back. That team is not going anywhere.
Okay, what about Garrett Crochet? I mean, he's the guy that everyone knows is going to get moved. Where does he go?
I actually think that's who goes to Baltimore.
Okay.
I think there's still a lot of, I don't want to say the name because he's probably on your list down here further, but I think to get that guy that we're going to talk about soon, I think it's just going to take an astronomical haul. And I don't know if they're going to do that when they can get this guy probably a lot cheaper, and you could probably slot into probably put him right behind Corbin Burns in front of Gabby Rodriguez. But I think Crochet ends up in Baltimore.
I think this is the move that Houston ultimately goes out and makes. I think they try and bolster their pitching staff, and I don't know if we're going to get to him or not. We talked about him last week. I think it's either going to be Garrett or Max Scherzer going to Houston to, shore up the rotation and basically be that third or fourth guy they could truly depend on in the rotation.
Okay. I'll take the next step. Next one on my list is Luis Robert Jr. Now, I'm going to go first on this one. I haven't really given you an opinion on a few. And I think this is ultimately who ends up in Philadelphia, unfortunately. I'm not a fan of this player. I think he has had millions of issues with effort, and I don't think he would fit well in Philadelphia. He better hit the cover off the ball the second half of the year, because I tell you right now, not a low effort guy like Robert, who makes a ton of mental mistakes. Now, listen, I hear the argument all the time. Well, it's because he's in Chicago, and Chicago isn't in contention. That doesn't matter to me. To me, if you're a professional baseball player being paid to be a professional baseball player, you need to play professional baseball. And I'm not a fan of this player as a whole, but it seems as if the Philadelphia Phillies are enamored with this guy's his bat, and to be able to put him in center field. So I think he ends up in Philadelphia, but begrudgingly.
I think some of the stuff about him is a little bit overblown. I think a lot of it, we've all seen the play about him not throwing home on the sac fly to end the game. I do agree with Gene, though. I mean, I think I don't care if you're playing professional baseball. I think you should be playing as hard as you can all the time, no matter how bad your team is. But again, I think if you look at some of the stuff that's come out about him, you had the whole Tony La Russa thing when he was there, and he was, everybody kind of, I would say for the most part, shared the same sentiments that he did that were on that team. Tim Anderson Jr. and a bunch of other guys. But I agree. I mean, if he gets traded to Philadelphia, I think he has to become the player he was, 3 or 4 years ago versus, I think what the perception is that he is now. You're going to be going into literally the best possible situation you could be traded to, if we're being honest. And you got to hit and you got to play field, but you saw it again today. Center field is a problem for the Phillies. I don't care how you slice it. Rob Thompson, for some reason, is hesitant to, let Marsh play against lefties, but we keep playing Rojas, who's hitting 220. I don't know. Center field's a problem. And that's why I think he's been linked. He's been linked with the Phillies for a while. It's kind of a new lease on life for him. So if he gets traded here, I do expect to see a different version of him. They have him for this year and 3 more years. Ultimately, I think it ends up being a good fit.
I don't think he's going anywhere. I think Chicago waits to move him until the offseason, where they see kind of how pieces fall and probably potentially get more for him. So I think they hold on to him and move him this offseason.
All righty. I got 2 more, and then you guys can give me a couple. I have Jack Flaherty, right-handed starter. He's only on a 1-year deal with the Tigers. The Tigers are obviously going to move him. Where does he go?
See, Flaherty for me is the guy that I think goes to Houston. I think there's a lot of people thinking he might go back to St. Louis. I don't see that. I think he goes. I think he goes to Houston and becomes the 3rd starter. I think he's going to be cheaper than the other guys, and on top of everything else, I don't. If Texas is going to be a buyer, I don't know why they would trade Scherzer. So that's a little off-putting to me. I don't think Scherzer gets moved. So I think Flaherty ends up in Houston.
I think Flaherty could be an interesting name for the Dodgers. We've talked about their pitching struggles throughout this season, and I think that could be a move where the Dodgers could not only look to keep him just for this year, but maybe even keep him in the rotation down the line, try to extend him and really just keep him as a part of that team. I think Flaherty make a lot of sense for the Dodgers to go get and shore up their rotation.
I actually agree 100% with Cottrell. I think he goes to the Dodgers. I really believe that. I think it's, they really need a starter, and I think that the Dodgers will go out and make a move for Flaherty. And the last one I have on my list is Mason Miller, closer from the Oakland A's. I think the Oakland A's are going to try to get as many assets as they can before they move to Las Vegas, and Mason Miller is their biggest chip right now.
I don't think Mason Miller gets moved. I think he is the one they're going to hold on to. They're paying him a couple $100,000 a year right now. The kid's young. There's no reason to move him. You hold on to him now. You wait till you get to Las Vegas, and then once you get there, you're out. I mean, obviously their whole outlook on that organization, how they spend money is going to be different. When they have 40,000 people showing up every night. I would be surprised if he got moved, and to move him, I think it's going to take an absolute. You have to call them with something that'll just be like, we just can't pass up all these kids, and I don't think that's going to happen.
It's funny because you're right, but the one thing that I find very interesting is every year around the trade deadline, Oakland has a really high price for a lot of players, but every year around the trade deadline, they seem to always make it. That price drops.
Yeah. I think the one team, and I know, we can't link this team to everybody, but again, Baltimore is a team that would make a ton of sense to me. They have the pieces in their farm system to give up to go get this guy, and again, make the splash to bolster up that team. If you're going out there and getting one of the best, if not the best, relief pitcher in baseball at this point, why not mortgage, some of those young guys to go acquire a piece like that? I think it could be a move that makes a ton of sense for them. But ultimately, I don't think he gets moved either right now. I think probably next year at the trade deadline is probably when we look at Mason getting moved.
And I have a little bit of a pie, right? I have 4 guys, and I want to hear if you guys have any feelings about if any of them get moved or where do you think their destination would be. And it's Tanner Scott, Jazz Chisholm, both of the Miami Marlins. It's Brent Rooker of the Oakland A's. And then there's a couple teams, and just my thought process, that need catchers, and Elias Diaz from the Colorado Rockies seems to be the name that a couple teams in the hunt are looking at. Any of those guys that you think get moved and where they get moved? Do you think Cody, it's looking like after the injury with Cody Bellinger with his finger, that he's less likely to be moved because of his contract situation and his injury? Out of those guys, who do you see being moved and where?
I think Tanner definitely gets traded. Again, I mean, there's a million teams that need what he can provide. Jazz, I don't know. I guess if somebody feels like they're going to strike out on the whole Arozarena, / Robert sweepstakes, maybe he's like somebody's fallback option. I don't know about him. Rooker, I wouldn't be surprised. Again, if anybody gets moved from Oakland, I think it might be Rooker. To your point, catching is always, yeah. I'm trying to go through the playoff teams right now to think if anybody would need one that desperately, and nothing's really just kind of popping in my head. Who was the fourth name?
Hold on, pull it back up. I had it here. It was Elias Diaz, Brent Rooker, Jazz Chisholm, and Tanner Scott.
Yeah, okay, and I went through them all then.
I think Jazz doesn't get moved. I think Tanner Scott does get moved. I think Tanner Scott gets moved to a contending team as a reliever. The one name I think is really interesting on that list that it's funny because Tanner Scott's great, right? I think Brent Rooker ends up going to a team like Minnesota, a team like Milwaukee, a team in the hunt that can afford an inexpensive player, but will give up. Like, they don't want to spend money on the player, but they have prospects. Like, I could see him getting moved to those teams.
For me, I mean, the one that I consistently say is Jazz. I think Jazz gets moved. I think it just makes too much sense for Miami to move him. I don't think there's any way that he resigns there. This is his last year before he has to get paid. So I think for a team to go out and get Jazz, you get a true starter. And I think this is an opportunity to buy low. Jazz hasn't been performing great at this point so far this season, but Jazz is a player that, you know, we've seen when he's at his best or at least close to it. I mean, he can make it. He can have a big time impact on the game. So Gio says the Jazz. He could see Jazz going to the Mariners. I think that could potentially be a fit. You know, just replacing Julio like while he's out. I think that makes a ton of sense. But ultimately, for me, I'm sticking with where I've said from the beginning. I think him going to Atlanta will make a ton of sense.
So, do they get from what you said earlier though? Do they get a Rosarena or do they get Jazz? They're not getting both of them.
No, I didn't go a Rosarena to Atlanta. I said I think a Rosarena actually stays.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. That's a trade deadline. Any of the guys I missed that you guys want to talk about?
I mean, there's two big ones. I think Scooble and Bichette are the two
moved, bro.
If again, this is why I think Crochet actually finally ends up in Baltimore. I've read it too many places that Baltimore's called, and we've mentioned it obviously with numerous guys' names on here. If anybody has the haul to make that happen, it's Baltimore. If Dan Duchette decides to do it in Detroit, and it would be very interesting. I think that is not that they're in it, but that is going to demoralize that team for the rest of the year. It will be really bad in Detroit if they trade him. I ultimately think he stays, but I think Baltimore. I think Baltimore's going to try for sure. And then Bichette, I think Bichette gets moved. So
where do you think he gets moved to?
Cleveland.
I mean, they've become kind of the pseudo front runner for him. So I mean, I hate to say it, and I'm not even trying to give Cottrell false hope here. They are the one contender. It makes sense.
Okay. Apparently, Bo said earlier today he wanted out of Toronto.
I don't think he's going to stay there. Again, I mean, I've mentioned it since the beginning of the year. We've talked about it numerous times. That the dream they had for that kind of core just has not, come to fruition. Biggio. I mean, he was in the minors when they traded him. I think Bichette's played well, individually, and obviously Vlad's had a couple years where he almost won the MVP. But in general, as a whole, pitching just nothing has seemed to work out for that group of players they put together. They thought were going to be, the guys for the next, 5 to 10 years. And I think Vlad's the one they can keep and they can build around. And I think they're going to trade Bo.
All righty. Anything else for trade deadline before we move on?
No. I mean, I think it ends Tuesday. So I mean, it'll be
we'll be talking about it.
Yeah, it'll be fun for us because it'll be fresh when we come on the air Wednesday.
Well, I've been looking forward to getting into the Olympics. I'm kidding. The only thing in the Olympics that I'm looking forward to, and this is just me, I get it, but I'm looking forward to basketball. I want to see Team USA, men's and women's, play Olympic-style basketball. What is frustrating to me is watching Team USA play Olympic-style basketball. I went into this Olympics saying boots to asses. That's what all I wanted. I wanted 40-point wins, 30-point wins, and the talent level disparity between Team USA and the other teams in the Olympics is so high. It's so even when you look at some of the better teams in the Olympics, right? When you look at Germany or you look at Serbia or you look at France or any of the other teams, their best player outside of Serbia, because it's Jokic, but their best player can't make our team. They don't make Team USA. So it's frustrating to watch them almost lose to South Sudan and Germany. Now, granted, it's great for South Sudan, but I don't know, man. I'm really, really frustrated with Team USA basketball. I don't know if it's a Steve Kerr thing. I don't know what it is, but I will say this. There's one person that's made a bigger ass out of himself than any American, and that's Joel Hans Embiid. And I can't even wait. I can't even save it. I just can't do it. I can't do it.
Save it.
All right, so Cottrell, I'll pass it to you. I'll pass the rock. What sports are you looking forward to? What events are you looking forward to in this Olympics? And then we'll get a little bit of basketball talk after that. Because
So
Gonna make Cottrell's wheelhouse now.
Since we're here, I'll just throw this out here real quick. To me, I think it's very prevalent that the United States is missing some dogs in the backcourt. Now, I'm not even saying that to just say, Kyrie should have been on this team, but I'm saying that they've had such a lack of production from their guards so far throughout, this just pool play, period, that I think it makes you question, hey, they threw Tyrese Halliburton on the team. Drew hasn't been playing bad. That's not, I'm not knocking him. Devin Booker hasn't been playing well. But when you have guys like, Jimmy Butler, Donovan Mitchell, Kyrie Irving, that are just sitting at home that really didn't even get thought about. And then you throw in Jaylen Brown is another one. And then you throw in Derek White at the last moment. You really start to look at the team kind of sideways. And again, it's not to make excuses for them because they still have plenty of talent to still be, taking over and, really putting it to teams. But the guard selection on this team is very interesting. And you definitely see that's where a lot of their struggles have been so far. But as far as sports that I'm looking forward to, I'm going to start with number one. You got a sport making its debut for the first time in the Olympics, breaking. It's breakdancing. I'm not really looking forward to it, but wanted to highlight it. You got some sports coming back for the second time since 2020 in surfing, 3-on-3 basketball, skateboarding, and sport climbing. But the two sports that I absolutely love watching, one's going to be swimming. You got this insane matchup between Katie Ledecky and Ariane Titmus in the 400 meter and 800 meter freestyle. Titmus is going to be the favorite in the 400. Ledecky is going to be the favorite in the 800. But these two go back and forth, and it's always awesome watching those two compete. And then my baby on the other side, track and field, absolutely love watching it. You're going to see plenty of great performances, and I think there's going to be a few world records that actually get smashed in it. And my early prediction is that all 4 hurdle events are going to have new world record times by the time the Olympics is over.
Anyone in particular we should be looking out for?
So for the 100 men's and women's, I like the 2 Americans. I like Sha'Carri to take gold there, and I like Noah. No one's really been able to get Noah in the 100 lately, and he's been working on the start, and he's the second favorite right now in the 100. I like Noah to
about world champions of what? That guy?
Noah Lyles, yeah.
Oh God, I actually root against him.
I mean, you can do that, but right now he's running hot and he's peaking at the right time.
What? I think it's dope.
100 meter hurdles. I like Jasmine Camacho Quinn. She's at plus 70. Lasia Johnson though, plus 1100 from the U.S. Great, sprinkle some money there if you like it. But then outside of that, I like Rai Benjamin in the 400 meter hurdles. Him versus Karsten Warholm is going to be U.S. versus Jamaica level talent. That's going to be a world record. Whoever wins that race is going to set a new world record. They have the 2 fastest time in the 400 meter hurdles history. And then on the women's side of that, you got Sydney McLaughlin, and then you also got Femke Bol. Again, those 2 run against each other. They got the 2 fastest times ever. Another world record is going to be set in that race.
It's going to be a battle.
Shally, what you thinking? What are you looking forward to in this?
Well, I just did like headlines and kind of like bullet points. Cottrell's hit on a couple of them, but I think a couple that he's mentioned, I think we need to talk about a little bit more.
Okay.
I'm gonna start on the other kind of the big sport that you didn't mention though, women's gymnastics. It's always a pillar of the Summer Olympics. Listen, for as great as she is, we gotta remember here. This is kind of a redemption tour for Simone Biles here. If you don't remember what happened in Tokyo with her situation, with her, her kind of her mental health and kind of pulling out. It's her 3rd Olympics. She's got a chance to do something that nobody's ever done. winning all around gold after theoretically skipping one, because that's what she did in Tokyo. And I think the U.S. women are still favorites, but they're a little shorthanded with people who got hurt at the trial. So I think that competition is going to be a little bit closer. Ultimately, I think they pick it up, team gold. And then, obviously it would be a great ending to the story of, as storied as the U.S. gymnastics team has been, especially on the female side. She's the best to ever do it. To send her off kind of with a gold is going to kind of be a fairy tale ending for her. I think she deserves it. I hope she gets it, but she's gonna face a lot of competition, mostly from her own team when they get to individuals. So that's going to be interesting. That's a headline for me. We already talked about the basketball. I'm not going to get too far into those. I think the women are going to dominate. I still think the men are going to flick a little bit of a switch and start playing a little bit better here.
Sure hope so.
Yeah, I agree. Another redemption tour.
45.5 favorites. 45.5 favorites. And South Sudan missed 3 buckets within 10 feet to win the game.
All right, listen, it's hard to kind of explain, but again, you have a lot of guys in there that have a lot of pride and a lot of experience. I think they're going to be okay.
Sure hope so.
Another redemption tour. Sha'Carri Richardson. Cottrell already brought her up. I mean, this is another lady that we talked about at length last year. Won the trials, got suspended for a failed drug test. She has done
marijuana, just to be clear, not doping.
Yeah, marijuana. No,
I just want to make that very clear, because when you about drug test, you think the person was cheating. That's not cheating.
No, it was not a PED thing. But she has, I think the one thing we all wish for is that, we kind of hope she matured a little bit and kind of learned from it. And I think you have to give her all the credit in the world. She has been nothing but professional and handled her business since that happened. She's the fastest woman in the world right now. She is the favorite in the 100. Again, it's another bit of I think this is one of those stories, again, kind of like Simone Biles. This is what makes the Olympics special. This stuff doesn't happen every year. So that was the big, tragedy of her situation before. Like she had to sit on this for 4 years, and now we're back. So she gets her shot at glory. And I hope, I think if she runs a race, I think as long as everything goes well, I think she wins. I think she's been the class of the 100 the last 2 years. So I think she finally gets her gold and she gets her moment in the spotlight, which she deserves. Cottrell brought up Noah Lyles as well. I didn't know Gene wasn't a fan of him, but he's got a chance to do something that only 3 other guys have ever done, which is wild. Win the 100, 200, win the 4x1. The only other people that have ever done it, Jesse Owens, Carl Lewis, both legends, and then Usain Bolt's done it 3 times. We all know what Usain Bolt is. So he's a slight dog in the 100. He's the overwhelming favorite in the 200. Depending on what book you look at, a lot of people think the U.S. are the favorites in the 4x1. This isn't going to be the strongest Jamaican team ever. They're good, but they're young. I think the U.S. actually, to Cottrell's point, I think the U.S. is actually, in my opinion, not being biased, of course, but I think the U.S. has a little bit more experience. I think Noah's going to anchor it. I think he brings it home. Like I said, I think he's going to win the 200 easily as long as he stays healthy. It's can he pull the 100 off? And that's a feat, like I said, in the history of the Olympics, it's only been done 5 times, and 3 of them were done by the same person. The other stuff, female track and field, again, like Cottrell, Cindy McLaughlin, she's a darling, one of the faces of the Olympics. She's going to anchor the 4x4 relay. I don't know if Cottrell mentioned that, but her race in the 400-meter hurdles, I do agree with Cottrell wholeheartedly. I think you see a world record fall there. That's going to be a battle. She's not going to run away with it as much as she did last year. That will come down. That will come down probably the last 20, 30 meters. That's going to be a good race. And then Katie Ledecky in the pool. Cottrell already touched on it. 400, 800, and then the 1,500 meter, she'll probably win by at least a pool length. She can end up becoming the most decorated female Olympian ever coming out of this Olympics if she medals in all 3 of those events, which is kind of wild. She'll swim on the relay as well. So that's, potentially from a US point of view, we have the chance to see a lot of not only record-breaking performances, but again, all-time kind of record set between Simone, Katie Ledecky, and then obviously Noah. Noah's got his shot as well. So it's going to be, if you're US, this is going to be a very good US team across the board and the stuff that we're usually good at. I'll say that. We should do really well track and field, gymnastics were the favorite, men's too as well. And then we'll pick up stuff other places like we always do. So those are the big ones for me.
Before we get into trivia tonight, before we get into men's basketball, women's basketball, like before we leave the Olympics, ESPN ranked the top 25 Olympians of the 21st century. Did you guys see this yet?
I have not.
Okay. Before you guys, just the top 4 is all I want to hear. All right. Top 4. I want your Mount Rushmore of Olympians in the 21st century.
Well, it's Michael
Phelps.
Charlie got Michael Phelps. Go ahead, Cottrell.
Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt's number 3. Phelps 1.
I would say Simone's got to be in the top 4.
Simone's 2.
Okay.
Cottrell, round us out. Be perfect. You could be perfect in every sense of the word.
21st century.
Yep.
In my book, it would be Shelly Ann Fraser Price, but it's probably
Shelly Ann Fraser Price is number 8.
It's probably Katie Ledecky.
It's gotta be Ledecky.
It is Katie Ledecky. That's the top 4. Top 25. Check it out. It is it's pretty interesting article.
One last thing I forgot. I just got a text about it before we get into basketball. U.S. women's soccer is going to be very interesting. I am not as high on that team as other people are. I think the coach that is coaching that team right now shouldn't have got the job. I think her roster decisions, are going to haunt them. I think leaving Alex Morgan at home was a huge mistake. I've watched their last 2 warm-up games. They have not scored a goal against 2 teams that are not good. They're struggling to score. They are not using people the proper way. I think this has the possibility to be a disaster for that team in the Olympics.
Oh, grass ping pong?
Grass ping pong.
I love it. Grass ping pong, baby. Let's talk about men's and women's Olympics basketball. This is where I want to end on. We'll start with the women. Team WNBA beat Team USA in the All-Star game. I found it very interesting that Team WNBA and Team USA both talked about this as being a competitive matchup, something that we're going to compete in. But when asked about it on Monday, Team USA stars Asia Wilson and Brianna Stewart said they would definitely turn up their defense when it comes to Olympic games. And it wasn't really, they were not playing full defense versus Team USA or Team WNBA. I heard a couple excuses in there. And I'll tell you this. I'll say this. I've seen a couple comments above talking about talking about Caitlin Clark being on the Olympic team and A, B, and C. That's not where I'm at, right? I'm not listen, whether or not she makes it or not, I don't think she deserved to make it. Based off of what she did so far this year, I think it was a mistake not putting her on it, but that's okay. That's not what I want to get into. What I want to get into is there's somebody that 100% should have been on that Olympic roster. 100% should have been on that Olympic roster and wasn't. And that person, what?
I said, and she went out and made it known.
And she went out and made it known. Cottrell, your thoughts on your girls? Team USA, Team WNBA. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, Arike Gumbawale 100% should have been on Team USA. And now, I mean, she's made that clear for the second time. You know, in 2021, she let them know, hey, I should have been on this team, and I'm going to go out there and show you why I should have been on this team. 2024, history repeats itself, and that's just how it goes. So I think, the way that she's been playing, she was absolutely incredible in that game. And, she's came out and said that, there's a lot of politics that go into it, and that's ultimately why she, pulled her name out of that hat and why she knew she wasn't going to be on that team. So essentially she wanted to save herself the embarrassment of getting cut from the team. And, it definitely sucks that that's the case for them. But for her to go out there and have the kind of game that she did was absolutely incredible. And I do think that, once we're at the point in 2028, I know I'm looking far ahead in the future here, you're going to have Caitlin, you're going to have Angel, and you're going to have Enrique being 3 new players on that team. I think the way that they play in the All-Star game, regardless of, what competition level they want to say the game was being played at, those 3 women have shown that there's nothing that's going to hold them back off of being on the team in 2028, because there is no denying them. As far as Team USA goes, the one thing that they have going for them is that they're going to run through everyone in their way. At this point, I think they've won 7 straight gold medals. Doesn't matter who's on the other side of them. They can say that they're just going to turn it on, but the reality of the situation is they're going to be better than every team that they face. And there's not one country, hell, America doesn't have an answer for A'ja Wilson. So I think she's going to go out. She's going to dominate. The team's going to look great. And for a little bit of time, because of how dominant they are, we're going to forget that this happened. But once we're back and we get back into the WNBA season and we really start to think about it, we're going to realize that there are a few really good women that were left off of this team that not only could have made the team, but been key contributors on the team that are going to be no doubt about it for 2028.
So the comment I wanted to make about Kumbawale, that she should have been on the team. Look, I've been very clear. I think it would have been smart for them to bring Caitlin Clark. I also said I didn't think she deserved to go based off of her accolades and what was going on. I understand that, but it would have been very smart to bring her. After watching her last 3 weeks, now, granted, the decision was made way before her last 3 weeks. What I noticed with that Team USA is they really lack a distributor. And granted, Chelsea Gray is going to play better in the Olympics. I understand that. She's going to be the distributor on the team. But they really lack a distributor. And if you're going to tell me you'd rather have Diana Taurasi on that team than Caitlin Clark or Arike Ogunbowale, you're not paying attention to basketball right now. Because both of those two, one would be a much better scorer and one would be a much better distributor because she's athletic enough to actually get up and down the court now. Diana's not. And it's very obvious that she's lost not a step, not 2 steps, but like a whole giant leap. With that being said, Team USA is going to run through the competition. Cottrell is absolutely correct. But what I want to get away from in the next Olympics is the girls' club that it's become instead of it feels very much not bring Isaiah because Jordan didn't want him there. It feels very much like you can't make a case to me that there's 12 girls in the world better than Arike Ogunbowale. You just can't do it. You're not doing it. And it bothers me that it becomes Diana Taurasi's on the team over Arike Ogunbowale. Or it's not even Diana. Like, listen, you want to give Diana that role because she's been such a staple to women's basketball? Fine. Take Jackie Young off the team. Like, I whatever you have to do, it doesn't have to be 4 aces, three Mercury players. Like, it just feels like it's a cliquey situation instead of bringing the best players in the world. And for some people, you don't know what's going to happen 4 years from now. One of these girls could suffer a career-ending injury. God bless. I hope they don't. But they were not allowed on the Olympic team because it's a girls' club. And that's a problem. That's an issue, something I don't like. Want to make that clear. Any thoughts?
That is where I think when Cottrell brought up 2028, I think it's interesting. For all the hype and all the perceived animosity, we really don't know what it is behind the scenes. Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese look like they had a great time playing with each other last week. And then you factor in everybody else. I think you're going to have this new group that's going to come in, and it's going to be very interesting because I think that group is going to be very tight. And I think you have the potential for it to be weird to butt up. Diana Taurasi is not going to be there. It's going to be weird to butt up against the Breanna Stewart, A'ja Wilson, Kelsey Plum thing. It could be very interesting. I think when it's all said and
I
done,
wouldn't add Kelsey to that group. I think Kelsey's not like, I think Kelsey Plum is one. She's still so young. She's still be 3 years in the league. She's not, I don't think she's part of the old guard. I think she's just entered into the old
But
guard.
I think Bill more so meant like the relationship that she has with some of those like players though. Like
correct.
Her and Asia obviously are on the same team. Like she's been on with Stewie and Sue Bird like on their show countless times when they come on throughout the season. Like
it's more
she has that relationship with all those.
It's
players.
more to your point of being the clique of the Aces, the Mercury. Like it's more it's adding on to that because I agree with you. I think that's where it gets interesting. And I mean, listen, with the team, it wouldn't have mattered who we sent. I mean, they're minus 3,500. Like you guys both said, they're going to roll everybody there. If you sent the WNBA team that they just played, that would be your championship game. They would beat everybody and get to the finals against Team USA that we're sending. They're just still light years above everybody else. The game hasn't caught up well enough around the world yet, like it has in the men's game. So, but again, it still sucks. If you watched that game, and a lot of people did, it broke the record for everything in WNBA. It's a glaring omission to Jean's, passionate point. Don't tell me we're taking 12 players that are better than her, because we're not. It's just, and the fact that I give her even more credit for the fact that coming out from the get-go, like Cottrell said, and said, I'm not going to make this team, even though I should. It's all political. Everybody behind closed doors knows it's political. And I'm just sparing myself, the embarrassment of not being on that roster at the end, even though I should be. And I think that ruffled a lot of feathers, and as it should, because she went out last week again and proved that she's not on the wrong side of this conversation. So, it's going to be really interesting to see where Team USA progresses the next 4 years. And then on top of that, because you have other people coming in, we've talked about Paige. I think Paige is going to be a lot closer with a Caitlin Clark and an Angel Reese than she's going to be with, some of the older girls. So it's going to be interesting. It's really that team is going to take a very interesting turn in the next cycle.
Okay. I don't disagree with you. I think that it'll be very interesting. I'm really looking forward to the second half of the WNBA season and looking forward to our American girls dominating, which I'll still be rooting for the Americans in basketball. Like, there's still a lot of players on the team I really do enjoy. I just didn't like the politics that got behind it. Agreed. Now for the other side of the coin, I won't go into my thing I want to. I'll do it later. But for the other side of the coin, the men's basketball team looks bad. And I don't know if it's not enough practices. I don't know if it's not enough playing together. I don't know if it's the loss of Kevin Durant, who's not been playing yet. But what I will say is this. It's not the offense that really draws the issues. It's allowing 100 points to South Sudan defensively in shortened quarters. That's not a 48-minute game. It's a 40-minute game. They allowed 100 points to South Sudan. Defensively is where, now maybe, just maybe, they turn it up come Olympics because the games matter. But, man, there's a difference. There's a huge difference between the men's and the women's game as far as the effort that gets put out defensively. And I think that the United States basketball team, this would be one of the biggest black eyes in the history of Olympic basketball if this team does not sweep. Not even win gold. They win gold and lose a game, it's a black eye. If they don't win gold, oh my Lord. These are arguably 10 of the top 17 players in the world on one team. Wouldn't look good. Just be clear. Your thoughts?
I mean, I agree. Definitely wouldn't look good. And I'm not here to make excuses for them because the South Sudan game was inexcusable. But I also do think that this is probably the most talent we've ever had in terms of everywhere else in the world compared to the U.S. And again, this isn't giving them an out. This isn't giving them an out. But this is to say, like we talked about it last week. I gave them a 75% chance because I think these other teams they have good basketball players. I think U.S. still needs to be better. They still need to dominate the games. You're supposed to beat South Sudan by 45. Now, if you go out and you have a tight game with Canada and maybe they get you, or, that game's a 4 3-point game, like I can understand that. But that shouldn't be happening in South Sudan. That shouldn't be happening against Germany. And really, to me, what it comes down to, you're talking about like the defensive side of things. It almost feels like as a whole, nobody knows how to play complementary basketball. We got all these stars that don't know how to play off of each other. LeBron, AD, Bam. I'm trying to think who else has been playing well. Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday is a great complementary piece. Those guys have played well together. Everybody else has really struggled in finding out really how to play together, and that's so weird to me. I think Kevin Durant, of course, will be a great piece to add, but they still shouldn't be looking like this without KD. They got to figure it out, and they got to figure it out fast, because I do think at the end of the day, you talk about it being defensively like all you want to, that offense is going to be how this team wins gold. And you're going to need either Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, Jason Tatum to look like how they would during a regular season or playoff basketball.
I'm about to piss people off right now. Sorry, guys. The chat's too much right now. I'm talking to Wayne. I'm talking to Eric. I'm talking to Matt Godfrey. I'm talking to anybody. I'm talking to Kyle. I'm talking to anybody in the chat right now. Y'all talk about LeBron being the issue. LeBron's the reason that team beat Germany and South Sudan. LeBron is not the issue, guys. You're not watching the games. I guarantee you. You're just looking at the spots, the box sheets. Anthony Edwards, who said, I'm the guy. I'm the number one guy. After South Sudan said, what happened? He's like, LeBron James happened. He saved us, and there's the only reason we won this game. Look, I am one of the biggest LeBron haters ever. Cottrell, can you attest? Am I not a LeBron hater?
For sure. I'm
telling you right now, LeBron is not the reason this team is struggling at all. Please stop. You said Jordan wouldn't allow that, or Barkley. LeBron is the leader of that team. I'm not saying that. I get it, but you're kind of somewhat saying that. It's not more organic to you. I get. And guys, I'm not getting political on Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. We're talking about basketball. LeBron James has been the best player on Team USA, and it's not even been close. My issues come with this. Number one, I don't think a lot of players on the team like each other. And the one I'll get into tonight is Joel Embiid. I don't think he gets along with a lot of players on the team, and I think that's a problem. He's the most dominant player on the team, and he's not dominating, right? I mean, he played really well their last game. 15 points, 8 rebounds, 5 of 8 shooting. I'll take that. You want to give me that? He had the biggest block of the game versus Germany. I get it, right? Joel Embiid finally played a good game. That's not the problem. He needs to shut his mouth. You're a teammate. You need to learn how to be a teammate. I say this all the time. Shally, and I hate bringing this back to softball. We're not getting paid to play softball. But something that's really awesome about the team that we put together in softball is we have 15 guys in that team that will sit, play wherever, bat wherever, and not complain, because that's what teammates do. Team USA doesn't have that. And the ego issues that they have on their team are going to need to get fixed quickly. And I don't know if a closed-door meeting needs to happen or what needs to happen, but I'll say this. That team needs to understand why they're there. They're there to win gold, and they're there to be the best team in the world. It's not about who's the best player, who takes the last shot. It's about playing together as a team. No one remembers how bad Dame Lillard was because they won gold. You win gold, that's what matters. Play better, get on the same page, be a teammate, stop all the bullshit. I'm not going to get too far into this because I'm going to unload a little bit later, but Team USA basketball is in a bad state right now. Ready for trivia? You guys ready for trivia?
I was waiting to see what Bill had to add.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of the reason that Gene's upset, because I was we got done our game last night and somebody sent me something and I showed it to him, which has kind of led us down this path. But listen, I think I'm not going to disagree with anybody. Anything they're not playing well. I mean, I don't. Again, I don't think if if you let South Sudan score 100 points on you in 40 minutes, that's not okay. I don't care. I don't care if they had the last 5 guys on the team in there. That just shouldn't happen. I'm to the point. I'm not the biggest LeBron guy in the world. I also don't think exhibition games matter as much as maybe other people do. I'm gonna rely on my faith in him and a couple other guys that are probably the leaders behind closed doors on that team, that it's going to get worked out and it's going to get done. I don't care what you think of him professionally or even personally. The guy's won at every level, and he is who he is for a reason. And I think until they do lose or until they screw something up, I think you have to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's going to captain the team in the right way. I agree. Certain people need to play better. And I think they need to play a little bit, I don't know if it was you, Cottrell, or Gene mentioned complimentary basketball, but that's a huge thing. And it's glaring. It's a lot of one-on-one, I'm gonna go because we don't think the guy in front of me can stop me, but they're not playing really good team basketball right now. And that's going to have to change. With that being said, I don't think you're going to blow everybody out by 40 points. I don't. I think.
Oh no, they're definitely not going to do that.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I think the world has gotten a lot better at basketball. I still think we're the Kings and everything else, and I still think we're going to win. I've said that from the get go. I gave them 85 or 90% chance.
95. I said
95. There you go. And that I'm still there. There's nothing that has changed that for me.
Okay. All right, guys. Let's get it's trivia time. It's trivia time. Now, I want to be clear when I say this, right? There's a trivia updated ticker. I talked to Cottrell earlier, and I didn't ask him any trivia. I just talked to him, and I said, hey, Cottrell, we're going to do college football tonight because you guys are college football guys. Do you want easy or do you want hard? And I have hard. I have a really hard top 10. I have it ready. But Cottrell said for the listeners and for sake of time, we should go with easier. How, Charlie, what's your feelings on that?
I mean, listen, I mean, it's twofold. I appreciate the hard ones, even if I'm in it or if I'm the moderator of it. But that being said, to Cottrell's point, I think too much of us struggling with it sometimes, I think is probably not ideal too.
Okay.
So
we'll go easy. I think you guys should rattle off 6 of these rather quick. I'll put it to you this way, right? I would have got 3 of the hard and 7 of the easy within 3 strikes. So we're doing 3 strikes because it's easy, and we're going to have to keep a trend. Cottrell has won 2 weeks in a row. He is now back into the thick of it. So you get to lead off tonight. And the question, it's a pretty easy one, but it's the top 10 college football teams with the most wins all time. So most wins all time in college football history.
Okay.
I think it's a very easy list. I think you guys should be able to rattle off 7 of them pretty easily. Cottrell, you can start with number 1.
I'm going to go with Ohio State.
The Ohio State University is number 2.
Go with Michigan.
Michigan University, the Wolverines are number 1.
I'm going to go with Alabama.
Alabama, tied for number 2 with the Ohio State University.
I will go with Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is number 4. The guys are rattling them off. 1, 2, 3, 4.
All right. Go to some more history here. I'm trying to think of some teams here that I just know have the long standing pedigree. I'm gonna go with Florida State.
Strike 1. Florida State is not on the list.
I'm going to go into the Midwest. I'm going to go with Oklahoma.
Oklahoma is number 6. So we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6.
Okay. I am going to go to Oklahoma is actually a really good one. I'm going to go with Texas.
Texas is number 5. You guys now rattled off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All that's left, there's 7 through 10.
Okay. Fair enough.
Brooklyn Horns, number 5.
I'm going to go with a team that Mika Trell and Alex were actually arguing about something else, but I have a feeling with their past, they fall in the top 10. I'm going with Nebraska.
Damn it. That's one I was going to take.
Number 9. Cornhuskers, number 9.
Okay. So Nebraska is actually one of the ones that I was thinking about as well. Trying to think who has
Hook 'em.
multiple. I'm gonna go with USC.
USC is strike number 2.
Wow.
USC is not on the list. They're number 12, just to be clear.
That was my next guess. I'm glad Cottrell took that bullet for me. Believe it or not, this is weird. I'm going to throw Gina Bone here. I'm going to go with Penn State.
Penn State is number 8.
Get the fuck out of
So
here.
at this point, Cottrell can only hope to tie. And I do have a bonus if you guys do tie. I will say this, and this is just a small hint. The last 2 schools that are available are the 2 hardest by far on the list.
Okay.
That's a hint. It's a hint I can give.
Okay, so we'll go 10.
I'm shocked USC was on the list.
Same.
They were number 12.
That threw me for a loop.
I forgot which other one I guess, but I was shocked they weren't either. Clemson has to be up there. I don't know if they're in the top 10 though. I think Colorado would be up there. I don't know if they're in the top
I apologize.
10.
USC was 13. I went and looked it up just to double check. They were 13. They had 875 wins.
Jesus.
I've been playing college football for a minute.
Let's just go around here. Wisconsin is one too that just keeps coming to mind as well. Screw it. I'll throw it out there. Me, Wisconsin.
Not strike 3, and I've already updated the trivia time. I knew where you were going there. I'll be honest with you, dude. It's the last 2 are very, very difficult. I'll read you off the list again. I'll see. I'll give.
Boy, I have 2 guesses on the last one.
That's fine.
One of them.
Yep.
Is Tennessee one of them?
Tennessee is number 14.
My other guess would be Yale.
Yale is number 7. 936 wins for Yale.
Yale.
Is Army up there?
No, they're not. But I will say this. Kyle Edwards absolutely came through before it was even said. I would go old school. Harvard and Yale. Pretty sure they dominated back in the day. Harvard was number 10.
I don't know if I would have got Harvard. Yale came into my mind pretty early. And actually, believe it or not, Army and Navy both did too, because back in the day, they were actually a lot better than they are now.
I'll read you to Michigan has 1,004 wins. They are 39 wins over number 2, which is Alabama now. Alabama passed Ohio State by 1. I apologize. That list needs to be updated. Ohio State is number 3 with 964. Notre Dame 4 at 948. Texas 5, 948. They are now tied for 4 and 5. Oklahoma 6, 944. Yale 936. Penn State 930, who should pass Yale this year probably. Nebraska 917. Harvard 901. And number 11, it won't be this year, but it will be in the next few. Georgia 881. Then Penn 878. USC 875. UT 865.
Bro, Penn has more wins than USC. That's wild.
No, yeah, Penn has 3 more wins than USC.
That's crazy.
So next week it'll be Cottrell giving the trivia for us, and I will take my next shot at Mr. Scholastic Shally. I wanted to give you guys a college football one because we do have Coast to Coast returning in just 10 short days, and I was pretty fired up about that. So
we're getting closer.
That we are, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. About to be
gonna be a feisty show this season.
Since we went through that rather quick, and since we're not gonna go through them because I think they're too hard. Which one of these lists would you have rather done? I had the top 10 quarterback passing yards of all time, and the top 10 rushing yards of all time.
I probably would have said passing because I actually know a few that are on that list.
There'd be a couple weird ones on there, and I feel like it took a while. I feel I think passing would have been more fun. I feel like we would have went through rushing quicker, though.
No, I think I'd have went through passing quicker.
Take a shot. I mean, we're not going to do it. How many would you name off top of your bet? The top ahead.
Case Keenum, Colt Brennan.
Colt Brennan, not on the list. Number 11.
Yeah. Ty Detmer.
Ty Detmer is number 7.
You got Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel.
6. Dylan Gabriel's 8.
David Klinger.
No.
Is Greasy on this list?
No.
Not Greasy. Flutie. Doug Flutie?
No.
Telling you, there's a bunch of like
Colt Brennan's number 11.
Yes,
trying to tell you, it's harder than you think.
Was Baker Mayfield at 10, just past Colt Brennan recently? Kellen Moore at 9.
Is Andre Ware on there?
Dylan Gabriel at 8. Ty Detmer at 7. Bo Nix at 6. Sam Hartman at 5. Graham Harrell at 4.
Graham Harrell, Texas Tech legend.
We weren't getting that under pressure.
Landry Jones at 3.
And then Case Keenum's at 1.
Is this? I don't know this guy. Timmy Chang.
Timmy Chang's another. He was a Hawaii guy too, wasn't he? He was on the Eagles for a while.
Justin, what they have in common is that they are like 28-year-old quarterbacks that transfer to Oregon and don't win.
Don't win shit.
By the way, Justin, I want to say this to you real quick. I want to be very
he's our biggest fan.
I love Justin Louder. He's in the chat every week. It's fair. I love Justin Louder. He's in the chat every week. But I'm going to start taking some of this shit personal. He writes on the Wire2Wire page, the 3 goats of Wire2Wire Network on Coast to Coast. You know they only replaced one person, dickhead. all in fun, brother. I love you. I'm just kidding.
We're gonna get louder on the show this year somehow.
Okay,
he deserves it.
Of that list, we got what 5, 6,
5.
Some of those we weren't getting. We weren't going to get
Brennan.
Graham Harrell.
I'm actually like shocked Colt Brennan wasn't.
Graham Harrell, Timmy Chang. We weren't getting those.
All right, well, we got to move on to our linebackers list. I'm pretty fired up about this list. If you haven't seen 10 through 6, go to the Wire2Wire Facebook page. Check out 10 through 6. If you feel like we're missing somebody in our top 5, I am almost confident. I can just tell by the list that were written by Shally and Cottrell that my top 5 will be much different than the other 2 top 5s. I really projected this year, and I really took my time. This is the most work I did on linebackers list. I was texting these guys on Monday that I am not going chalk here. Like, I really have strong feelings about some of these linebackers that are on this list. And so if you don't like my list, Oh, well, write yours. Give me yours. Let me see it.
I would say by looking at everybody's list, I don't think anybody went chalk on this really.
No, but okay. I'm shocked. We all have 5.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, actually, we're all
wow. This isn't as different as I thought it would be. I really thought this would be different. Like Shally, I want to give you all the credit in the world because I think the most underrated linebacker in all of football is Quincy Williams. And like so many lists that I seen had CJ Mosley ahead of Quincy Williams. I'm like, you're not watching Jets football. You're just not. He's not better than Quincy Williams. Sorry, I don't want to get too far off. I am shocked at the way these lists played out. Bravo to you, gentlemen, for being as good at this as I thought you were.
We have the same 5, Gene.
I just noticed. I am. Listen, I didn't expect it. Also, I do want to take a shot at you, though, Shal. One shot.
Right.
Small shot. Love your list. Love your top 5. You have TJ Edwards in your top 10. You are out of your friggin' mind if you think TJ Edwards is a top 10 linebacker in football.
I think
you think TJ Edwards is a better linebacker than Nick Bolton? You are out of your mind. TJ Edwards' mom doesn't think that TJ Edwards is a better linebacker than Nick Bolton.
We're projecting, I think, on that defense. I think his numbers are going to be better at the end of the year.
Oh, well, we already I got to hear Kachel's thinking on Owusu Karamoah is a very good linebacker, just to be clear. I had him right off my list. JOK was right off my list.
No, you had him at 8, Gene.
I mean,
Mike, all you got to do is look at the CLE next to him, and that's why he's there.
He's a very good linebacker. JOK is a very good linebacker.
He would have been an all-pro linebacker if Patrick Queen wasn't in Baltimore. But we'll start off with that guy that I just mentioned. That's Patrick Queen. I do think Patrick Queen will take a small step back here, as opposed to what he looked at like last year, playing alongside Roquan Smith. But I think he's going over to a great situation playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Patrick Queen's a guy who, really made his money in pass coverage originally. But last year he was able to help out in the run as well. He was very, very useful for that Baltimore Ravens defense. And I think numbers wise, he takes a small decline going over to Pittsburgh. And, I don't know if they're going to use him as a middle linebacker or if they're going to try and, just move him around a lot more often, maybe have him rush here and there, things like that. But I just think with his role changing, he'll be slightly different in production as opposed to last year. But Patrick Queen was way too talented to not be in my top 5.
I agree. So I have number 5. I think he moves to a situation where he kind of got, for lack of a better term, he gets to be the big dog. Play next to the guy that's either 1 or 2 on everybody's list. While, makes your life a little bit easier. It's also not that easy, in the same breath. Playing next to people like that is not always the easiest thing to do in the world. He's one of 6 guys in the NFL that has 450 combined tackles and 10 sacks in the last 4 seasons. And 2 of them are on 1 or 2 on everybody's list here. That's the company he's in right now. And again, like I said, you play next to Roquan Smith, he's probably stealing some of those from you as well. So I think he goes to Pittsburgh. I think he thrives there. Listen, that defense is always good. Say what you want about the offense and, what goes on that side of the ball sometimes. Pittsburgh's defense is always legit. I think they added an absolute stud that's going to help them become even better this year. I think he's a top 5 running linebacker. That's where I started my list.
The Pittsburgh Steelers have such a dominant defense that people aren't talking about because with the addition of Patrick Queen, they have a top 5 player, in my opinion, at all 3 levels. They have Minkah Fitzpatrick in the secondary. They have TJ Watt as an edge rusher, and they have Patrick Queen across the middle. And that's not even counting. They have Alex Highsmith, who's a severely underrated player. Joey Porter Jr., who is a very good corner in the league. Cameron Hayward. We don't forget about Larry Ogunjobi. I think Patrick Queen eats in this defense, and he's a super aggressive linebacker. Here's what I want to point out about Patrick Queen. 14% of his snaps, he made a negative play in 2020. That was one of the lowest. In 2023, he lowered that number to 7.3, which is 4th in the NFL. 7.3% of his snaps, he had a negative grade. That means 92.7% of his snaps, he made the right play, the right read. And for an aggressive linebacker like Patrick Queen, it's very tough to not have him number 5. Number 4 for me is the most underrated linebacker in football. I had a really tough time between 4 and 3. Quincy Williams is, in my opinion, everybody knows about Quinnen, right? You know Quinnen Williams. You know how great he is as a defensive lineman for New York Jets. What you don't know is Quincy Williams is one of the best tackling linebackers and coverage linebackers in football. He's great in both of those regions. Quincy Williams is a nose for the ball, and that Williams family, those brothers, are incredible in that Jets defense. Quincy Williams ranks at my number 4.
Number 4, I'm going Matt Milano of Buffalo. Came off 2022 campaign where he earned his first All-Pro and Pro Bowl nod. Was off to a monster start again last year till he broke his leg 5 games in the season. But his numbers were on pace to even beat his 2022 numbers already. The dude has a great instinct for the ball. He's improved in pass coverage. He's a sideline-to-sideline player. Buffalo missed him dearly when he got hurt last year. You saw it all over the place, especially coming down the stretch. I think as long as he's healthy, again, he's only 30. I think he has another 2 to 3 monster seasons left in him at that position. And that's why I kept him in my top 5. We're projecting. I think he's healthy. I think he picks up right where he left off. I love the dude. I love the way he plays football. Number 4 for me, Matt Milano.
Number 4 for me is the guy that plays for my Cleveland Browns, and that's Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. JOK led all linebackers last year in TFLs. He had 20 of them. And 20 TFLs from the linebacker position is absolutely incredible. Talk about a guy that can get after it in the run game. I mean, he's great at reading his keys and, really just sticking running backs in the hole and just making plays on them in the run game. Now, him in coverage, he's definitely gotten better, but JOK is a freak athlete. When he was coming out in his draft, a lot of people thought he was going to be a first-round linebacker, and, some injury concerns ultimately let him slip to the second round, but guy's a linebacker, but he moves like a safety. JOK for me is just coming off of a Pro Bowl nod, and I think the sky's going to be the limit for him. He's playing behind a Browns defense that's led by Jim Schwartz that really just puts him in a position to be very successful. I think with all the talent that's around him, they make his job very easy. And because he's that freak athlete that he is, they let this guy fly around and go make plays, and that's really what he loves to do. So love JOK to have another great year for the Cleveland Browns.
I do want to make a comment here real quick. I know that you're going to go to number 3 in a second, but Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, if you don't watch enough Cleveland Browns football, and if you're an Eagles fan that watches this show, I'm going to give you a person that he reminds me of. He is so similar to the way Jeremiah Trotter played the linebacker position for the Philadelphia Eagles. He is a instinctual, hit-the-hole, pass blitzing linebacker. And the reason he has so many TFLs is because he is so instinctual in hitting the hole. The reason I didn't have him top 5, and it's not because he's not talented. He's undersized and he's not great in pass coverage. But what he does at the line of scrimmage is incredible. I'm going to be very clear. Some people value different things. I actually think Owusu-Koramoah might end up being a better outside linebacker in a 3-4, being able to edge rush, than he would be being where he's at. I think he's very, very good, but he reminds me a lot more of TJ Watt coming across the outside than he does of a instinctual middle linebacker that plays pass coverage.
Fair enough. Number 3 for me, I'm going Matt Milano. Matt Milano is guy. Shiley just talked about him in Buffalo last year. He was off to an incredible start before his injury. I think Matt Milano was a guy who originally, when we started talking about these lists a couple years ago, guy who I probably had like 10, 9, and I just thought Matt Milano was a guy that couldn't replicate that success, or he couldn't be the guy on a defense. Well, he's proven me wrong. He is that guy. It's not about the system that he's in. Matt Milano is just a great ball player. He's very good in coverage. He can make plays in the run game as well. And I think this Buffalo defense, you saw it last year, it took a toll once he left. I think Matt's going to be the heart and soul of that Buffalo defense, and I fully expect him to pick up right where he left off before his injury. I think Matt Milano has a special year, but I think 3 is the absolute peak for him. 2 guys that I have ahead of him, I think those are head and shoulders your best 2 linebackers in football. But I like Matt Milano at number 3.
So taking that same kind of mindset, I put Quincy Williams at number 3 because I think he's the next guy that could possibly pound on that door to get into kind of the upper tier where I think number 1 and number 2 guys that we all have, I think they're a tier above everybody. Gene hit this right on the head when he talked about him earlier. Watch New York Jets play defense, and you'll notice Quinton Williams. He's the all everything defensive lineman for them. Of course, they got Sauce Gardner. C.J. Mosley's the popular name. Watch Quincy Williams play linebacker. Just watch. Don't look at anything else. Just watch Quincy Williams play defense for 2 series and tell me he's not the better linebacker. 139 tackles last year, a couple sacks, 15 tackles for loss, 10 pass breakups. The dude's a freak. He's literally the linebacker version of his brother. He's just a little bit smaller, a little bit faster. The dude takes great instincts. He's tough as hell. And great athleticism, and you turn him into a linebacker, and that's why I think he's the next guy to get to that next tier. He was debatably, one of the best players on one of the best defenses in the league last year, and you'll notice him even more this year because as long as Aaron Rodgers stays healthy and that team scores more touchdowns this year, the Jets are going to win a lot of football games, and he's going to be one of the reasons why. The kid's a stud. I would dare say I don't think we've seen his best year yet. I think he has the potential of a better year this year or the next couple of years that he did last year. Number 3 for me. And again, I preface that by saying I think he's the closest person to taking that jump to the elite tier of the 2 guys that we all have ahead of him.
I have Matt Milano number 3, and let me just be clear about Quincy Williams. Quincy Williams was number 2 in the NFL last year in PFF rating for pass coverage linebackers. That's not even what he's known for. He's incredible on each side. And by the way, like when I was doing this list, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I don't agree with a lot of these. Normally I look at like consensus lists and kind of look at the top 25 players and do my own research on each one of them, like what I've watched and what I've put together and their ages and what the tape looks like. Quincy Williams is so underrated. It's unreal. And I think it's no shock that he's top 5 on myself and Shalley's list. My number 3 is Matt Milano. And the difference between Matt Milano and Quincy Williams is I think Matt Milano is just a better instinctual linebacker. I think he just understands where the ball is going to be a little bit better than Quincy Williams does. Matt was on pace to being one of the best linebackers in football last year. He was the only linebacker not named Roquan Smith and Fred Warner that had above 80 grades in PFF in pass coverage and rush and run coverage. Matt Milano can hit the hole perfectly. He's a good pass defender at the linebacker position, and he's one of the most instinctual guys in football. If you don't know his name, you better learn it. He's very Luke Kuechly-like at the linebacker position, and that's a huge praise to give any player. It's really sad to see him lose tears ACL in London. That was a terrible thing for the Buffalo Bills, and the Buffalo Bills defense severely missed him. My number 2 is, he's so good. And he could be number 1 on a list, but he's so friggin' good. Fred Warner is the heart and soul and every beat of that 49ers defense. If you want to know where a big plays happen on that 49ers defense, just follow Fred. Fred hits the hole. He's great middle linebacker, super instinctual, great in pass coverage, great in run coverage, one of the best leaders on the field. Very rarely do you see him out of position, and he was the only player to have less than 5% negative snaps in the NFL last year. It's Fred Warner. He's my number 2.
Number 2, I'm going Roquan Smith. I went back and forth with this for a while. This was the hardest decision for me. And obviously you see Gene and Cottrell went the other way. Coming off a year, 158 tackles, most by a Raven since 2003 with Ray Lewis. Just kind of tells you what kind of category and what this guy's capable of doing on a football field. If you watch Baltimore play at all, then you know who Roquan Smith is. It's still amazing to me that Chicago let him go for pretty much nothing. The dude's a
I got
beast.
Chase Claypool. That was the move.
Yeah, the move.
The same second rounder. They got Chase Claypool. Come on.
The guy's an animal, and that's how I would describe him. It's almost weird that he plays for Baltimore, because if you gave him an old school comp, it's probably Ray Lewis. The guy he's involved in everything. No matter where the ball goes, like you will see Raekwon Smith either at the bottom of the pile or, you're sharing a tackle with somebody. The guy's that good. He has no weakness in his game. He's a guy that if your team's playing, you pray that he gets sick or something, he just doesn't show up. Because if not, he's probably going to have, a gazillion tackles, maybe force a fumble. The dude is just all around great. I have him number 2. The difference between 1 and 2 in all these lists is very slim. I went with number 2 this year, simply because I think with not having his running mate of Patrick Queen this year, I think maybe he takes, maybe not even so much level wise, but numbers wise, maybe he goes down a little bit. So that ended up being the deciding factor for me. So I have Roquan Smith number 2.
For me, I went with Fred Warner at number 2. I think it's pick your poison kind of thing between 1 and 2 here. For me though, with Fred being in San Fran, I mean the dude is he's great in run coverage, but the way he can defend the pass and just really his leadership with that San Francisco defense, like he makes sure everybody is in the right spot. He makes sure that assignments are covered. He's making sure that the D-line is opening up certain gaps so that him and Dre Greenlaw and just other San Francisco guys can just fly around. I mean, I think he's, instinctually he has great instincts, but I also think arguably he'd be the smartest linebacker, and just like what he reads and like what he sees out there film study wise, just knowing what's coming and what to expect there. But for me, with number 1, ultimately I went Roquan Smith. I think he's the best athlete on this list. True sideline to sideline guy. Anytime you need a guy to go find the ball, that's exactly what Roquan Smith's going to do. He's not afraid to go stick his head in and get his hands dirty, things like that. And I just love the role that Baltimore plays for him. I think Roquan Smith is absolutely incredible, and I'm glad that we finally got to see him out of Chicago, because Baltimore is getting the absolute most out of Roquan Smith. So number 1 for me, I think it's skill, fit, everything all together. I think Roquan had to be number 1.
Number 1 for me, I stuck with Fred Warner. I think you guys have both brought up, great things already. Gene stole one of the 2 stats I wanted to use. I'll go back over it again in a second, though. But again, he's the heart and soul of that defense that's been top 3 or 4 in the league now, a couple years running. He's the leader. He's the captain. And on top of everything else, a lot of, some guys are excel at positions because they're good athletes. He's a good athlete, but he's a good football player. Gene already mentioned it. He's extremely smart. You don't see it. It's very, very rare you see him get fooled or you see him out of position. Gene mentioned the one stat that I wanted to bring up. He's the only defensive player last year that, was under, -5 negative plays rated against him. And he's also the only guy in the last 25 years last year that had 125 tackles, 4 interceptions, and 4 forced fumbles. He is the definition of elite. He can do everything. Him being so good in pass coverage allows San Francisco to do other things because they don't have to worry about tight ends running all over the middle of the field and using another safety or using somebody else over top. The guy can do everything. If you were starting a team and you wanted a middle linebacker, it's probably the guy you're taking. So Fred Warner for me this year stays on the top of the heap for one more year.
I want to hear something wild. And I mean this when I say this. I'm not trying to be like any funny when I say this. What do you think the age gap is between Fred Warner and Roquan Smith?
What?
Who's older, who's younger, and by how long?
Roquan 2 years.
What do you think, Shao?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say they're probably within 2 or 3 years.
when I was making this list, I thought to myself, I'm like, Roquan's a younger linebacker. He's just, he's coming into his prime. Fred's been there. They're 5 months and 16 days apart. Roquan is 5 months younger than Fred Warner. Fred Warner's 27 years old. Born November 19th. Same birthday as my father. Not the same year, obviously. But Roquan Smith, I feel like that he just came into his own, and Fred's been into his own. Fred's been in his bag. But what I do want to point out about Roquan Smith is these sound like video game numbers. 158 tackles. Wait, let me just read that again. Did you guys know that? 158 tackles at the linebacker position. That is unbelievable. And by the way, that's only his third highest. He had 169 the year prior. The guy is just an athletic freak. He finds the football. He's TFLs, quarterback hits. I mean, the guy's just next level. Roquan Smith's my number one just because of his nose for the football. I think he's a little bit better in coverage than Fred, but I think that if you're really breaking these two down, it's splitting hairs. I have no argument on who's number one and who's number two. That's how good they are. Roquan's my number one, though. That was fun. Really fun. Super fun. We got UFC. We have UFC coming up. Next week, we're going to edge rushers, right? Control?
Yep.
Interior linemen / edge rushers.
Oh, we're doing both.
Yeah, we always do both.
We combine them.
It's funny because when we do the draft, I get it mixed up because when we do the draft prospects, we do edge rushers and interior separate. But that's fair. UFC card. UFC is really not doing very well, in my opinion. Should be very clear when I say this. I have another card not that excited for. Dana White did his best sell job this week, trying to sell this card. Leon Rocky Edwards defends his belt against Bilal Muhammad. Tom Aspinall, Curtis Blades. And then you get a bunch of who's who, right? You got Paddy Pimblett fighting on a card against a guy that's got 37 fights, 38 fights. He's lost 15 of them. Trying to keep Paddy Pimblett relevant. And
I don't think that's what that is.
It's not?
Bobby Green has been consistent. I mean, Bobby Green is consistently active, within the UFC. This isn't just throwing Patty a bone. This is let's try to get Patty in the rankings. Bobby's probably 15, 14?
Yeah, he's 14.
Somewhere like that in the rankings. Like, Patty, you want to get in the rankings? Go beat somebody that's in the rankings.
I don't think Patty wins this fight, just to be very clear. I think Bobby Green still beats him. The fighter on the, in the beginning, I think Arnold Allen's the one you got to look out for. I think he'll have a really nice fight. He's the opener, so really look out. He lost 2 straight fights, and I think that he could be a really elite fighter. He was 19-1. He lost to Max Holloway in a 5-round decision, which Max pretty much had his way with him. And then he lost a fight earlier this year versus Avlova. I forget the guy how to pronounce the guy's name, but the guy's 18-0. He's incredible. So I think Arnold Allen bounces back in the opener. But let's talk about. Do you guys want to give a prediction on Bobby Green? King Green now. He changed his first name versus Paddy Pimblett.
I actually like Patty in that fight. I think Patty gets the fight to the ground, and I don't think Bobby's going to be able to just stand and bang with Patty. I like Patty by decision.
If Patty wins the fight, it's probably the way Cottrell just said. It's probably a boring fight. King, if King catches him, then it gets interesting. But I feel like the wrestlers in general usually kind of prevail here. So I'll go with Patty by a backpack.
I'll go with Bobby Green. But let's talk about the co-main event and main event of the evening. Curtis Blades finds himself in another very, very big fight, fighting against Thomas Aspinall, who has been on an absolute tear. Thomas Aspinall is 6'5", every bit of 260, and he hits like a truck. Just beat Pavlovich, but he lost to Curtis Blades a few years ago, and he got knocked out in the first round. And what this is a fight where Aspinall
Injury.
really what?
It was an injury.
Oh, it was injury? They got knocked
Yeah.
out. I apologize.
No. This is the fight that happened I want to say this happened in London.
Oh, the knee injury?
Yeah.
I remember. I apologize. Aspinall versus Curtis Blades. Aspinall is the heavy favorite in the fight. Curtis Blades has a TKO victory over him, even though it was an injury. Blades lost to Pavlovich. Aspinall beat him. Aspinall's a very big favorite in this fight. How do you see this fight going?
Personally, I think this is going to be a great fight. I think Curtis Blades is actually going to be able to control Tom a little bit more in this fight in terms of like trying to get this fight to the ground and not letting Tom just tee off on him. I think what's best for the division is Tom Aspinall win. But I like Curtis Blades by decision. I think this is going to be a fight where Curtis is going to come in smart. He knows that he's not going to knock out Tom Aspinall. He's going to need to take him down to the ground and, neutralize his legs and things like that. I think this is going to be a very entertaining fight, but I think Curtis does just enough to get Tom on the ground and take advantage in those situations to win. So I like Curtis by decision.
I like Tom Aspinall on this. I think he's got more ways to win. I think Curtis Blades is more of a one-trick pony, for layman's terms. But I think Aspinall does enough to get it done. I'll say third round stoppage.
I think Tom Aspinall knocks Curtis Blades out in the beginning of the second round. I think Tom Aspinall is going to win this fight, and I think he wins it on the feet. I think if Curtis Blades tries, and I will disagree with this, Yao. I do think Aspinall is way more of a one-trick pony than Curtis Blades is. Aspinall's only method of victory is to knock you out. He's won a couple submission fights, but they've all been off big punches. I'll take Aspinall to win this fight by knockout, early second round. Let's head into the main event of the evening. Bilal Muhammad versus Leon Rocky Edwards. Control, right? How do you see this fight going?
I think this is your dud of the card. I think for it to be a main event, this is probably the one that you're really not looking forward to. I think this is going to be a boring fight. You're going to see a lot of dirty boxing, a lot of grappling, and some wrestling as well. I like Leon ultimately to prevail. I think Leon is going to be the much cleaner striker, and I think he's going to win every stand-up exchange. And then I also think you've seen Rocky's takedown defense against Kamaru Usman and Colby. I think he'll do fine in preventing Bilal from getting the big time sweeps and takedowns. So I like Rocky by decision, but I actually think this is probably going to be your most boring fight of the night.
I hate to, agree with Cottrell, but I think it's spot on. I think Leon Edwards is too well-rounded. Like Cottrell said, I think he keeps the fight on the feet most of the fight. I think he's definitely the more technical striker. I think he'll score points, get in and out, kind of scoot in and out of the pocket. I just don't think he'll take any heavy damage from Bilal. And this is probably a lot of, if Bilal can't have any kind of success, getting takedowns early in the fight, I think this turns into a lot of guys kind of circling around each other for 5 minutes at a time and landing a few punches here and there. And my gut instinct is it's kind of exactly how Cottrell said it is.
So I watched this fight the first time they fought, and the first fight, if you remember, Leon Edwards and Bilal Muhammad fought in the first round, and it was very obvious who the better striker was, and it was Leon Edwards. He was clearly a better, and it was a competitive first round. Let me be very clear. But I felt like that you could see, and Leon is notoriously a slow starter, and he was already outstriking Bilal in the first round. Second round, accidental eye poke, really, and let's just be clear, Bilal wasn't trying to get out of this fight. He was bleeding from his eye. It was like he was tearing blood. The eye poke from Leon Edwards was a lot. Bilal Muhammad could not continue, and it ultimately got ruled a no contest. If Leon Edwards is the better striker in the fight, and he's got great takedown defense, I don't see a path to victory for Bilal Muhammad. I think Leon beats him by decision 4-1. I think that Bilal will get a round or two, whether it be the third or the fourth. But I think Leon starts better. I think Leon finishes better. I'll take Leon Edwards.
Snooze fest. Glad that one's going to be over. Because
do we have any card coming up that we're like that's actually going to be really good?
306 is going to be a banger at the Sphere.
And who's confirmed for that?
You're going to get O'Malley and Marab, and then most likely Shevchenko and Grasso again.
I think it'll be fun to watch. I think that they're going to load up the Sphere. But
I think the next few pay-per-views are actually going to be really good main event wise, because you're looking at most like, I don't know what the order is going to be, but you're going to be looking at Holloway and Ilya, Topuria. You're also going to have Stipe and John Jones down the line. You're going to get Chandler and McGregor down the line.
Isn't that pretty much locked in for Madison Square Garden, I think?
Which one?
Stipe and Jones.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, these are all going to be in succession of each other. Like, you're going to get maybe October, Max 305, and then, the Sphere card. Then after that's Madison Square Garden. Then you're going to get Connor and Michael Chandler. So, like, I think UFC they're slowly getting us where we need to go.
Yeah,
I hope so, man, because $70 a pop is BS for some of these cards.
I completely agree with you. 306 looks like they're going to add Charles Oliveira versus Arman Sarukian, which will be a fun fight.
That is a fun fight.
Again?
Yeah. That's what this looks like. No. I apologize. Brian Ortega versus Charles Oliveira has allegedly been signed for 306 at the Sphere.
Okay, now that would make sense.
That's still a fun fight.
He said
Arman. I was like, Arman would have nothing to prove in that fight.
Nothing. Going to hit headlines pretty quick. We're at 148, but I do want to cover a couple things that happened this week. Trout left a rehab assignment, getting reevaluated with knee soreness. Are we ever going to see Mike Trout play baseball at a high level again?
Yeah, I mean, again, we have to keep into consideration he just turned 32. They took, from what I read this morning, they took an MRI just a precaution. Everything was clean. There was no fluid or anything like that. Again, I think it's just more soreness than coming back from the injury more than anything else. I don't know how much we see him, for the rest of the year this year with the Angels in the dungeon again per the norm. But yeah, I do. I still think he ends up having at least 2 or 3 more monster years. And then, obviously anything past 36. I mean, I don't care who you are. It just starts to get dicey.
Your thoughts, Control?
I mean, I think you're going to see him again. You're going to see him at a high level. I mean, I just think he has to get on the team where he's going to be in a new role. At some point, he's got to go to a team where he's not going to be
he's not an Angel next year.
Required to play, 100 plus games a year. And where you can DH him more often, because I mean he's getting to the point in his career where you don't want to throw him out there for him to get hurt again. So I mean I think Trout still has good years left in him. I know he wasn't batting anything crazy before he left, but before he got hurt, I mean he had already hit like 10 or 11 home runs, and
he was leading major leagues in home runs when he got hurt.
Exactly.
Oh, God, so he already hit 11 home runs in a month and a half.
Well,
I mean that's.
How many people do it?
Yeah, I was going to say that's still
not about that. It's just like I really want to watch Mike Trout play baseball again. But
I'm with you, bro.
But I'm saying if he can do that in a month and a half, and then ultimately he got hurt, but like it's a high level.
Before he hit 40 in 120 games. I mean, it's literally a matter of him.
I don't think the talent is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about
he's got to avoid the freak injuries. That's what it is. Like I mean, you're literally talking about like again, this isn't even like everybody's worried about the back. This isn't back related. It's just stupid little stupid shit that 2 years ago it was the wrist. Now he just randomly tears his meniscus, stealing second base. Like it's nuts. Like just the sheer odds of it. He's got to stay healthy a couple years here somewhere. Right. And if he does, then I think his talent's fine. I mean, his numbers are where they need to be.
Last time he played 140 games was 2018.
Yeah, I get it.
It's a long line of all right. I wanted to get into NFL holdouts just real quickly. First thoughts on these NFL holdouts or hold-ins. I just wanted to get your initial reaction to it. Trent Williams, actually a holdout for the San Francisco 49ers. He did not report to training camp.
Annoying.
That was a little annoying. I think that was a little shocking to me.
You're 40 years old. Why are you holding out? Like, you, as a business person, San Francisco's done everything right by him. They went to go get him out of Washington. They paid him the money, even as an older player. Like, what do you want them to do? They're not going to sign you to a 3-year extension. You're at 40 years old. That one just doesn't make sense to me. I feel like you could figure it out, whether it be more guaranteed money this year and, figure it out from there. That one's just weird to me.
CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, both hold-ins. They're at the facility, but they're not playing until they get a deal.
I think they're both smart for being hold-ins. I think being there, being in meetings, being around the guys, not putting yourself in any physical jeopardy. I've always said that I think that is the better way to go than, being away from the team and kind of really making it about yourself and being a distraction. Because then, everybody's getting asked every single day, like, where is he? When's he coming? Blah, blah, blah. So I think being there, is the right move from both those guys for both their situations.
If I was CD, I would have held out completely, but I understand while he's there. I think it's a good move on both their parts. With Ayuk, I think the writing is on the wall for them. I think San Francisco knows that they don't want to pay him, but they also want to go all in on this year. So I think you're going to see Brandon Ayuk play on the last year of his deal and become an unrestricted free agent next year.
I do want to talk about a couple fun ones. These are the only ones by the way, I've agreed with. I disagree with Trent Williams holding out. I think I agree with Cottrell 100%. I think CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Ayuk are both smart for holding out, holding in, but not playing. Here's the ones I completely disagree with. Jordan Love has got to be the smartest human being on the planet, or his agent has to be the smartest human being on the planet. That man is trying to capitalize on a $55 million deal as a quarterback off of 6 good games last year. Like, can we stop with Jordan Love? Like, come on. Did you guys not watch football last year? You think a game and a half is like, oh, he played great for a game and a half of football. He played a great game versus Dallas. He played a great half versus San Francisco. And now he's elite. Get the hell out of here. Did you not watch? Am I the only one to watch the Monday Night Football game when Tommy DeVito and the New York Giants beat him up, beat him to shit throughout that entire field? Am I the only one that watched Chicago Bears smack him around? Like, are we really thinking Jordan Love is this elite quarterback that deserves $55 million?
No, I mean, definitely don't think that. But at the same time, if you're Green Bay, what are you going to do? Draft another quarterback?
You're absolutely right.
I'd say, I think if you've here's what I'll tell you where I think it's interesting. I think after Green Bay going through the Aaron Rodgers thing for the better part of 2 or 3 years, I don't think they're going to be held hostage by Jordan Love.
That's not true. They're so close to agreeing on a deal already. Like, they're ironing out semantics at this point.
He's absolutely right.
I get it, but I'm saying I think that's going to be it, and that's what I'm saying. Like, they're going to sign the deal, and then 2 years from now, it's not going to be something different. That's what I mean. Like, I think they're going to be like, this is your deal. This is what you're playing on. Like, we're not redoing this in 2 years. Obviously he goes out and wins the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. That's a different story, but I don't think that's going to happen. So what I mean by that is I think they're going to cave because, again, they can't go draft a quarterback and start over. So I don't think they're going to be held over the coals down the line on this is what I mean.
And the last one I wanted to bring up is this is just so it makes me so thankful every day. I'm going to send another apology letter. I've sent 3 already to Howie Roseman. I cannot understand how the New York Jets traded for Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick told the New York Jets, I will not hold out. I'll be at camp. I'll be there. You trade for me. Come get me. We'll work a deal out. I'll be there. The moment the Philadelphia Eagles signed Bryce Huff, Hassan Reddick knew he had leverage and goes, not coming. Give me a new deal. It's a huge holdout, not showing up to Jets camp after telling him he'd be there when they traded for him. This is unprecedented. A player being traded for and then holding out. Your thoughts on Hassan Reddick?
The only thing I'm going to say in his defense is, this is literally the reason we were trading him. Like, we weren't giving him a new deal here. And they were up front with New York saying, obviously he went back on his word saying he'd be there. They also knew trading for him that he wanted a new deal. Like, this was a bridge they were going to have to cross one way or the other. So I don't know if they really thought he was going to show up and maybe for camp and then play on this deal for the year, and then they were going to go about it that way, because I don't think he ever gave them any inclination that was going to happen. Like, they knew he wanted a new deal. It was literally the reason we were getting rid of him. So, that being said, I think, again, I think it goes back to holding in versus holding out. I think if you want to act in good faith, be true to your word and at least show up in camp and be there, be around the guys, learn the system, learn the play calls, don't make it about yourself, and then let your agent, handle that part of the business for you. That's what you hire him for.
I think Hassan Reddick is an asshole. The fact that he literally, you request the trade to go to, to leave the Eagles basically, and not even just like not showing up to camp, but all the nonsense before this. Like, they've been trying to get him in for OTAs, meet the team. Like, he hasn't stepped foot in the Jets facility since he's been traded. Like, you're talking about, and it's not like the Jets aren't trying to pay him. They knew by trading for him that they would have to pay him a contract. And it almost feels like they're not even listening at this point. Hassan, you saw the reports like Hassan Reddick's out in Tokyo and he's on this extravagant vacation, but he hasn't talked to the entire Jets organization. At some point, you have to remember that you are still a football player. And this is coming from me. I'm always on the player's sides, but you have to at least give a little. Like, it almost feels like the Hassan Reddick side is like, until you meet the exact number we want, we're not even going to, try to work with you. I don't care that you worked in good faith to put us on a great defense where we think he could still have another, all pro caliber year. But instead, we're just going to do our own thing. You meet our numbers, or, you'll see us whenever you see us, whenever that'll be.
All right. So last thing you gotta be kidding me. I just want a quick answer, and that's it. Most people that live outside of delusional land and outside of Jerry land know the Dallas Cowboys can only sign two of their big three: CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Micah Parsons. Who are the two that you think Dallas should sign, and who are the two that you think Dallas will sign?
Micah CD.
Yeah, my answer to this.
I agree with that also. I think you're looking more and more like Trey Lance being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys next year.
If they let either Micah or CD walk and you keep Dak Prescott, and again, this isn't even like a situation where, like, all right, like, maybe we think CD turns into this. Like, he's already there. Like, you make the arguments, he's a top 2-3 wide receiver in the league. Like, what he is. And that's him playing with Dak. Yep. Like, Micah is debatably the best defensive player in the league. Like, you can't let either one of them walk out of your building.
You're right.
Because if you're going to Trey Lance needs CeeDee Lamb. And if you take CeeDee Lamb, if you let him walk and keep Dak, you're screwed. So, this is just easy. Like, it's two elite guys and a guy just that isn't elite.
First of all, completely.
Quinn or Shador play quarterback for the Cowboys at some point in 2025.
All right, let's get into You Got to Be Kidding Me. Control?
All right, so mine this week, I'm going to go over to the Big Ten. Some news that just happened earlier. I think it's earlier today. So you got UCLA's head coach, his first press conference at a Big Ten football media day, and he gave a rather bizarre opening statement. I got the video here. Want to play it for you guys. So just give me one moment here. We'll get it all squared away.
How you guys doing? I'm happy to be here. Glad to be a part of this great conference. Finally putting two great emblems together, UCLA and the Big Ten. We're a school that's won, 123 championships, so this fits us being right in this conference. Football-wise, we're just excited. You know, I'm sure you guys don't know too much about UCLA, but our football program, but we're in LA. It's us and USC. We I'm just basically excited, really. That's it. Any questions?
Yikes.
That is absolutely horrible. It almost felt like, you have this like huge test the next day, and you're like, you know what? I'm still gonna go out party. You wake up, you're like, oh, I forgot to study for my exam the night before. And then this is what you come to class with. So Deshaun Foster, for you to be taken over, this is your first year as a head coach. You're taking over for Chip Kelly. You're moving to the Big Ten, and the only thing that you can say about the UCLA football team is that they're from LA, the same city as USC. This week for me, you get the
kidding me.
Bro, that might be one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I didn't see that until right now.
Just
Dude, if you watch my reaction, you have to play that back. Like if somebody's watching the show, just watch my reaction to that video. I need to do a reaction video to that. It was so live. Shelly.
It's like we hired the wrong guy, and this is way too big of a situation for him. So mine's kind of silly, but like to me, it kind of matters. And it's funny, like, there was a bunch of people in the chat earlier in the show talking about this. So I'm going to preface this by saying, and I want to be clear, I don't think Coco Gauff and LeBron James should be the flag bearers for the USA. And I'm not saying it because I don't think personally it shouldn't be them. Like, I have no problem with LeBron. I have no problem with Coco Gauff, obviously. The spirit of the Olympics is amateur athletes and people who, are definitely not, that play professional sports and then get to play in the Olympics every 4 years. I would have loved to have seen them give it to somebody else. Maybe Katie Ledecky being one. Obviously, she's on the verge of breaking records. Even if it was Simone Biles, I would have been happy with that. I just don't like when we allow professional athletes to kind of take the spotlight away from a lot of these athletes that are going to get to do this probably one time. And again, I would have said the same thing if it was Steph Curry and somebody else. It's not a LeBron and Coco thing. It's just that they're professional athletes. There's always people that make these Olympic teams that have one shot at this one time in their life, that have great stories that come from like a town with like 400 people in it. I just think there's better stories and better people that should be carrying the flag in for us. So this week for me, that's what I'm going with.
Kidding me.
I'll just put that on record. I disagree. All right. My you got to be kidding me is Joel Embiid. And I'm not going to – I was fired up earlier. I kind of calmed down a little bit. I want to be clear when I say this, man. The first comment he said when he was talking about LeBron James right before the South Sudan game, he had said a comment like, well, we're not as like, the world is a lot closer to us. There's a lot more professional athletes. And this isn't LeBron James in his prime. This is not LeBron James. This is older LeBron. He's not the same LeBron James. That's your teammate, by the way, dummy. He's also the captain of the team. Oh, and that night, literally the night the interview happened, LeBron James basically put Team USA on his back, 6 points in the final 44 seconds for the United States to hold on in a 45.5-point victory versus South Sudan to win by 1. They were favorites by 45.5 points. Okay. Dumb comment. Maybe you apologize. Maybe you learn from your mistakes. Maybe a couple teammates pull you aside. Yeah, probably shouldn't have said that. Monday, this moron goes on a podcast and is asked about Jason Tatum. Now, somebody kind of like led into the conversation. and said that, Boston's got a very good team and, and like was making fun of Joel Embiid, talking about they have a super team. Joel Embiid plays right into it and says, well, Jason Tatum's on a super team. If I go 5 for 20, we get blown out. Another teammate, another stupid comment. Joel Embiid, you were the MVP of basketball 2 years ago. You had a former MVP in James Harden on your team. You have Tyrese Maxey, who's an up-and-coming all-star caliber player. You now have Paul George. You advocated for P.J. Tucker. You got him. Did nothing. You played on a team with Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, and Ben Simmons. Most people would consider that a super team. Shut up. I'm a huge Joel Embiid fan. This guy diarrhea of the mouth. It's excuse. It's funny. And look, I argue with Shally on this show a ton. He made an excuse after the Toronto series talking about his sickness and he's unlucky because of his stomach bug. Lucky shot by Kawhi Leonard. Made an excuse after the Atlanta series talking about Ben Simmons. We were fine until a player passed up a dunk, threw his teammate Ben Simmons under the bus. Made an excuse after the Boston series the next year where he said, if James Harden and me, it can't just be two guys, throwing Tyrese Maxey under the bus. Made an excuse last year talking about, well, it's always injuries and this is blah, blah, blah. After game 2, he goes, we're going to win this series. I am so sick of hearing you talk. Shut up. It's maddening. For that, this week, Joel Embiid.
Kidding me.
Sorry, I went a little bit late there. Needed to be said.
Facts. Definitely did.
Any final comments? Anything you guys want to add?
Only thing that I'll add real quick here is so this is our first show since the game has been officially out. College football, the video game, is back. College football 25 is out. It's been a lot of fun. Obviously, with any EA game, you're going to have your hiccups, but it's so fun being able to play with these schools, play against people. And to everybody out there that plays or have played, at some point, we got to figure out how we're going to make a tournament, and figure out how we're going to do this, because game's a lot of fun, and this is what we've been missing for 11 years. I'm glad it's back, and it's just getting me more amped for the college football upcoming season.
Shally, anything from you, my friend?
I'm good, brother. I'm fun show. I'm actually kind of pretty excited for the Olympics. I always kind of get in the Olympics, so it's gonna be a fun weekend.
Look at all this. Wayne's World 214. Add him. Boog says you don't want that smoke. Derek Dempsey, you gotta get a PS5, bro. But at the end of the day, I'm looking forward to playing some college football 25. It was really boring running through the Madden League. College football is a lot harder. I just got really bored of just beating everyone in Madden. So I'm glad there's a new game for me to learn and conquer. I'm saying that to all my Madden League guys that watch the show.
Kevin the Troll specifically.
Kevin the Troll, my man Wayne, anybody. You guys understood what it was. I'll learn this college football team and I'll hand it to y'all. But thank you guys for tuning in to episode 198 Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. That's Kent State's own, Cleveland's own College Cottrell. Uncle Scholastic Shally. We are signing out.